Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. We will begin shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. We will begin shortly.
The voice of God, or?
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. We will begin shortly.
Good afternoon, everyone. If we could have everybody's attention and please be seated, we'll start the program. So first, welcome and thank you for coming out to CID today for the State of Your Airport event. A couple of housekeeping items. First, restrooms. If you need a restroom, it's the open door in the back there. Just follow the signs. Secondly, you can see we've got Java House in the back corner there. They've been a fantastic partner of ours in the terminal. And on your tables, you have Java House coffee and water. If you need a refill or would like iced tea, just head over to the kiosk and they can help you out. So with that, today we actually have more than 200 people here. And 2 years ago when we kicked this off, same event, we seen that number was impossible to hit. And so here we are with over 200 people. So really thank you for coming out and hearing a little bit about what's going on at the airport. I also like to do a special thank you to Signature Flight Support, who's been very generous in allowing us to commandeer this hangar for our event and give us that unique location here on the airport campus for people to come and see that you probably otherwise wouldn't get a chance to see. Also, I'd like to thank Ken Brown for providing the aircraft for a little background accoutrement, if you will. So thank you, Ken, for providing the aircraft. There will be more thank yous, kind of recognitions throughout the program. We have a full agenda, so I kind of want to dive right into it. So CID is a true regional entity, and we're very excited to continue to promote that regional strength with our first two speakers. It's my pleasure to introduce Cedar Rapids Mayor Tiffany O'Donnell and Iowa City's Mayor Pro Tem Megan Alter for a few remarks. So please.
Thank you, Marty. And this is, just so you know, I believe the attendance today and the support today is as much a tribute to you and your team as anything else. So thank you for what you all do every day to make this the best region in the state and beyond. I'm so proud and humbled to be here as we celebrate 75 years. Side note fact, I am a private pilot, and I did my very first solo flight out here at CID. So I probably need to thank the tower more than anything for their support. It wasn't pretty, but we landed, and I'm still here. So thank you so much. And I say that because this really is truly an airport for all. I remember sitting in a little Piper plane. I was getting ready to land, and there were these big planes ready to take off, and they had to wait for me. Anyway, so I appreciate that, Grace. We are a place for all. As you walk past some of the banners on your way in, you really get an indication of some of the tremendously rich history we have here. We have come a long way. The airport started with very simple, and I say very Iowa beginnings. You may know this, that our very first terminal was a farmhouse. How appropriate was that? We can all be proud now. As the mayor, I get the privilege of meeting with potential companies who want to make Cedar Rapids and the corridor home, and I'm so proud to have this be their very first and last impression. So thank you for helping us be the best in our city and the region. We're also thrilled to say that the fourth and final phase of the airport terminal modernization project is moving very well forward. I know Marty's going to talk more about that coming up a bit later. As the mayor, I do want to add that it's one of my privileges to appoint volunteers to our various boards and commissions. I'd like to thank our commissioners if they are here right now. Can I have you stand? We have Carol Reesner, Dwayne Smith, Mary Meisterling, David Newsma, and Steve West. Thank you for your leadership. Several years ago, my predecessor, Mayor Ron Corbett, who is also here, began appointing representatives from what we now call the southern edge of our corridor to the commission to truly not just talk about regionalism, but walk the walk. And we began to truly embrace the regional nature of our airport. So in that same regional spirit, it's wonderful for me right now to introduce Megan Alter, who represents the Iowa City Coralville area for us today.
Good morning. We in Iowa City always appreciate the opportunity to collaborate with regional partners, and There's no better demonstration, honestly, than the advocacy that we have shared and that Iowa City has promoted on behalf of the Cedar Rapids Airport. While this collaboration has always been strong, as Mayor O'Donnell mentions, about 12 years ago, the city of Cedar Rapids formally requested that Johnson County leadership begin serving on the Airport Commission. And over the years, we've had some amazing representatives, and currently with Steve West, ably representing our community. I know he is just as proud of the work that's being done here as we all are in Iowa City right now. I appreciate this opportunity to stand next to Mayor O'Donnell and all of leadership to thank everyone for the efforts that have come to this. Actually, I too have an anecdote. 25 years ago, I was one of those folks who came in, and the first thing I saw of Iowa was here. It was over there, and I think here was a field, and truth in advertising, truth in confession. I was a native Midwesterner who wanted to get out of the Midwest. And so I lived in New York City for several years, and I flew from LaGuardia to here to check out the University of Iowa. And I have to tell you that even though I thought I was all that, I walked off the plane and I said, oh, I recognize this. It's familiar, it's welcome. The van is right there. I don't have to go 3 hours out of my way to try and find a shuttle. It was an amazing, welcoming moment. And it's even better as I was driving up with the windshields today, I was like, this is still so easy to get to. It's so welcoming. And this is one of the real strengths of what has been happening here is that at the same time that you're growing and increasing kind of business opportunities and creating a true regional hub, it's also welcoming, inviting, and really easy to use. So as a consumer, I say thank you. So in fact, Iowa City is incredibly grateful to have this kind of partnership and this supportive collaboration because it is vital to the business retention and recruitment efforts, not just in Cedar Rapids and Iowa City, but this entire region. Our airport is serving as a critical component to ongoing workforce recruitment and quality of life efforts, and it brings millions of dollars into the corridor each year through business, leisure, and conference and sporting event travelers. I've been told regularly by our CVB president and former CID commissioner, Josh Schomburger, who's over there, that a substantial amount of the citywide events we're blessed to play host to just wouldn't be here without a strong and continually growing CID. No Olympic trials, no Jingle Cross, no World Cup, just to name a few. So on behalf of the City of Iowa City, Coralville, North Liberty, and really all of Johnson County, I want to personally thank the Airport Commission, Pam, Don, Marty, Kathy, and all of those at CID for your continued hard work in making our airport the envy of so many around the country. It's such an important part of what makes Iowa City and our region a great place to live, work, and visit, and thank you again for the opportunity to be able to come here and say a few words about it.
And thank you both, and thank you for your service to our region and throughout the state. Next, I'd like to introduce one of my bosses, so big round of applause, please, for David Newsma, who is the Acting Secretary for the Eastern Iowa Airport Commission. David?
Well, good morning. I want to thank everyone who was able to come out today, and on behalf of the Commission, welcome you to this event. Certainly great seeing how many people were able to join us today. So really appreciate that. I also want, I know Marty you mentioned this, but I really want to thank Signature for hosting this event. I'm sure you can all agree what a great venue that is we're having here. Speaking for Steve and some of the other commissioners who aren't here, it's obviously a really exciting time and rewarding time to be involved with the Commission, and there's a lot of different projects that are ongoing. So really fantastic, exciting time for the airport, which we're going to talk a bit about more this morning. As part of the 75th anniversary too, I think it's very important and timely to recognize those who came before us, some of whom are here today, but in setting and establishing the future of what today is CID Airport, so that's very important. And then, lastly, I want to call out Marty and the entire CID team for bringing energy and their expertise, and I know they're extremely busy, and bring a lot of competency to make what the airport is. So very happy about that. So in closing with that, I think it's really important, and again, thanks for being here, and look forward to the remarks that Marty's going to make. Thank you.
All right, so give me a second. Got to do my stopwatch or I might get in trouble. So keep the program moving. So thank you. First, thank you again to the Airport Commission. I know David recognized the commission, but they really do provide that high-level view and guided direction to help the team continue to enhance and grow the airport here at CID. As David did so, I'd also like to recognize the past commissioners and past airport leadership for really having to make some pretty difficult decisions years ago in purchasing land, as an example. That probably wasn't all that popular at the time. But those sorts of hard decisions and forward vision really has allowed us to meet and deliver on some development goals that I think today would probably how do you want to say it, outpace their vision at the time. So very appreciative of those difficult decisions that they had to make as well. And before I deliver more of my remarks, I want to recognize elected officials and their staff that might be in the audience. These are always difficult because you always lose track of who maybe is here. So rather than try to go through names, if we could just have elected officials and their staff, please stand, and just a quick recognition for your service to the region and the community and the state as a whole. So if you could please stand. Thank you for that. Lastly, and I know several have already thanked the staff, but thank you to the CID team. Some and many are here today. They were here helping with signature, move airplanes out, get the place set up, putting food on the table, just really doing whatever it takes. And the team is small and mighty. There's about 58.9 FTEs. Thank you, Kathy, for the stat. So those are the folks that are keeping the airport running and really, quite honestly, tolerating me. From administration to operations, public safety, maintenance, the guest services team, each and every one of these dedicated individuals is working to provide that premium experience for passengers, tenants, and our guests who are all using CID. So thank you, Team CID. So as we started today, it's kind of appropriate to take a look back. We're here 75 years plus one day from commercial service arriving at CID, and the photos that are up there on the screen for you are from 1947. We had 20,000 people come out to see that first commercial flight arrive. We were served by United Airlines 2 trips a day back then, and we had a whopping total of 3,045 passengers for that year. I wonder, you look at that slide and you kind of wonder, could folks have envisioned where we're at today? I don't know, but certainly the leadership in developing the airport really started then and continues forward with a lot of volunteer effort on behalf of the commission. So today sure looks different. We are now the 112th busiest passenger airport in the country, and that's based on passenger enplanements, and that's out of 478 passenger airports nationally. 2019 was our high water mark with 1.3 million total passengers. We've come a long way from 1947 and 3,045 passengers to now essentially 2019 of 1.3 million. You'll see the slide there for you. I'd point out the kind of that orange graph is the projection for 2022, and we are currently on pace to have the second busiest passenger volume in the history of the airport. So special thanks to all of you who are making that decision to fly local and choose CID. It's really about your demand that fuels the growth here at this airport. So travel often and choose CID always. So you don't want to be called leakage. That's what we call people that choose another airport. That we call you got leakage, you don't want leakage. So just keep that in mind. But come a long way. So again, thank you for that. we got to talk about the pandemic a little bit, so I'm going to kind of move through that quickly. It's quite funny, I shouldn't say funny, but throughout the pandemic, the repeated question would be, so Marty, how are you doing? And, honestly, I heard it so many times, I started to get a little self-conscious of, am I looking sick or what's going on? So I thought I'd grow a beard, and that helped give me some disguise, so I wouldn't get that question anymore. But, no question, the pandemic was hard on a lot of folks, a lot of businesses. It was a heck of a wild card for all of us. But Congress, in our case, came through in a significant way and passed 3 specific funding programs that really helped us out here at the airport and keep things moving. The good news as well, the airlines throughout that process continued to invest in our market. We went into the pandemic with 15 nonstop cities. We've exited the pandemic with now a total of 16 nonstop cities. So we've actually added service through the pandemic, and that's a tribute, again, to the demand, your demand, fueling that growth. So very excited to report that. The route map is there for you. But without question, there continues to be some national challenges, and we've got some speakers here in a few that'll talk about this. But the national challenge for all airports include things such as high fuel prices, aircraft size or gauge is changing, aircraft are getting larger, local demand issues or workforce shortages, and our theme is really redefining travel, and we must, and I stress must, begin to work and think differently within our region. And when I say region, this is beyond the corridor. This is the broader Eastern Iowa region and borders of Wisconsin and Illinois. Or, we can let the market continue to speak the harsh message, that's a big word apparently, harsh message that it's speaking to us. So a lot of work. The slide there is just a snapshot. It's a little bit dated, but each one of those communities there lost service, whether that was American, Delta, United, have had a complete brand exit for those markets. There's more dots that have been added to that map. So our guest speakers, again, I'll touch on that in more detail. But ultimately what creates air service is strong regional economy. It's demand, right? I know it's a little bit cliche, but it's true. We're all in this together. When business thrives, the economies thrive, quality of life gets better, and air service grows. Again, we're back to your demand leads the conversation for us when we talk to the carriers. What individual businesses are doing and how we're doing overall in the economy is what leads that conversation. So catch the theme here of your demand drives everything. So please keep using the service. In addition to your demands, airlines serve a region, and a region where costs and airport costs are low. So we certainly strive to keep our costs low, and on the slide there for you is what's known as CPE in the business, so cost per enplanement. That's just a good metric that airports use, the industry uses to generally refer to our costs of operation at the airport. Happy to report this is a total from 2019, so the numbers have changed quite a bit, but in our case, they've actually gone down. But we had fully loaded data in the FAA system to prepare the slide, so this is 2019, but very competitive with our peer group. Certainly that's an important element for service. So we continue to pride ourselves on being one of the lowest cost airports, not just the region. We are the lowest cost airport in the region, but nationally. So as we looked, kind of transitioning here a little bit into terminal modernization program, You know, the industry is very dynamic, and certainly the pandemic proved that out. And because of the dynamic nature of the industry, the Airport Commission back in 2012, when we looked at the terminal modernization program, we split that into 4 distinct phases, and each one of those phases could be stopped at any one time. And by the way, the feedback on what's been accomplished so far on the terminal has been fantastic. Thank you for that. At the end of the day, this is your facility. You ultimately are our stockholders. So I hope you all feel very proud of the facility. It serves, again, we've heard this earlier, but it really is that first and last impression for visitors and greeters, visitors and residents alike that come through. So a little bit about the terminal and where we've been and where we're headed. Phase 1, there you have it. It's a front terminal facade. Project was $6.1 million, was accomplished in 2015. I'm going to roll through this a little quicker just to stay on track. But slide 2, our terminal project 2, was the public areas. So our airline ticket counters, our rental car ticket counters, baggage claim, those areas, $13.2 million project. And then phase 3, we finished just as the pandemic was starting. That involved more security screening, more gates, added 54,000 square feet of terminal space. That project was $33.4 million. So if you total up phases 1 through 3, it was just shy of a $53 million investment. Very happy to report that there was no local tax dollars, whether that city or county, to fund that project. It was all funded with airport user fees, self-funded, and we did that without any debt. We're one of the few airports in the nation that are completely debt-free. So that's significant as it relates to our ability to keep rates and charges low and it spur and help the conversation with our air carrier partners. So very unique, very proud of that. Phase 4, so as we started phase 4 conversations, of course, we're smack dab in the middle of the pandemic, so we hit the pause button. With fiscal responsibility being our guiding principle, we waited to see if and when passengers would return. I'm happy to report passengers are returning. Our passenger recovery right now, we're at 96% of our 2019 numbers. I mentioned it earlier that 2022 right now is on track to be the second busiest year in passenger volumes in the history of the airport. So phase 4 is under design. Bidding is expected this November. So CID was recently given a major boost in moving that project forward when the governor announced a $100 million program known as the Iowa Commercial Aviation Infrastructure Fund. Those dollars came from the American Rescue Plan Act, and those dollars will go directly to phase 4. I need to kind of pause and another thank you, because I know many in this room did letters of support. I know some made phone calls to the governor's office, so I really appreciate that. It's without question that strong regional support helped us successfully land that grant. The total grant eligibility for the airport of the $100 million program to go to phase 4 is $28.3 million from the state. Largest single grant in the history of the airport. So very proud of that, and thank you. Yeah. And again, thank you. I know I probably rang the phone and emails on many of you in this room to call the governor, write the letters, and we had a fantastic package that went to her office, and honestly, there's no question in my mind that that won the day for our community. So those dollars, again, will go to help us fund phase 4. So phase 4 is the finish line for us in our terminal modernization program. It's there for you, some sneak peeks here. There'll be additional jetways added, just to kind of give you a little bit of lay of the land on the building. You can see the diamond, if you will, in the roof. That's essentially where the terminal stops today. So we'll be adding more square footage for gate hold seating throughout the existing concourse, because aircraft are getting larger. We add additional gate seating at the end, additional restrooms. We're also adding a sensory room for guests that travel that just need to get out of that chaos of a terminal environment, that we can get them in a quiet room and help calm them down and get them on their journey. So overall construction timeline, there's another sneak peek with the roof off. Yes, there could be another patio off the end, so we'll see. very early design, so we're just kicking things off. So look for final product here to be bid again in November. Total construction timeline's about 18 to 24 months. This need to just really thank our design team and partners on that project. Leading the way is both engineering and certainly Mead and Hunt, our architects on the project. They've just been fantastic in keeping us moving on a pace that makes us hit the federal grant program cycle that we need to hit for additional funds. So along those lines, give me 1 second. We are working with the FAA right now for an additional funding program for Phase 4. It was part of the bipartisan infrastructure bill known as BILL. There's what's known as an ATP, Airport Terminal Program funding. We currently have a request in and hope to hear in June or July of nearly another roughly $20.1 million grant. Total Phase 4 is looking to be approximately a $50 million project. If all things come together, local dollars spent from the Airport Commission will be under $1.2 million on a $50 million project. So unbelievable. And again, it's the support that's come from this crowd and those letters that put the package together for the governor that we're using to leverage the conversation with the FAA. So representatives from the congressional staff, by all means, if you rub elbows with them, put a plug in for our grant to help us get to that Phase 4 finish line. I always say you don't, until you have the money, you don't have the money. So keep the pressure on. So back to the script. Sorry, Pam. CID's role in the regional economy is certainly growing, and CID will continue to serve as a connection point to the national transportation system for a growing segment of eastern Iowa. And simply stated, airlines are continuing to consolidate their service at airports. I'm putting this slide up for a second time for a reason, emphasis added, that airlines are consolidating service. So the landscape for Iowa, eastern Iowa in particular, is going to change. It's our intent to continue to serve the vast region of eastern Iowa and the border regions of Wisconsin and Illinois. So we don't shy away from that. It's a tough business. That is what's going on. Carriers are making the decisions. The good news is the carriers have continued to invest in our region, and it's because of your continued use and support. So let's transition quickly away from air service. We're going to come back to it with Bill and Mike in a second. Just want to talk about cargo. There's a couple other topics here I'm going to roll through quickly. First is cargo. These days it's hard not to talk about air cargo. It's suddenly, with pandemic and everybody staying home, everybody's interest in air cargo and getting whatever it is they ordered online, to their house in 24 hours has become paramount to their life. So we hear a lot about cargo. So cargo has been an important part of our business. We certainly had a major expansion with UPS. We've relocated UPS from adjacency to the terminal to what we call the West Cargo Complex that you can see there. It's immediately adjacent to FedEx. The dark gray on the screen is the new UPS facility that was opened just over a year ago. That new UPS facility represents 8 times more square footage that they're leasing now at this airport than what they moved out of. So a significant investment that UPS has made at this field. I'm happy to report that project from start to finish. I talked about our team of Foth and Mead and Hunt. We went from essentially a bar napkin, that's the truth, from 18 months, from a bar napkin to move in. That whole project, including the ramp and building, they were in it in 18 months. So speed to market is absolutely something the commission can deliver on. So, and we're very proud of that. More growth is anticipated in air cargo. We do anticipate at some point in the near future to relocate DHL. Again, they're currently at the base of the tower over to the West Cargo Complex. And who knows, maybe there'll be a new entrant in the air cargo market for CID. At the end of the day, it's all about our geography that's driving cargo. The ability to take freight packages from an airplane onto a truck and move it to large population centers that surround us within a one-day DOT drive time limit for a truck driver is significant. If you compare it to I-35 and I-80, otherwise known as Des Moines, we can reach 12 million more households than you can hit from I-35 and I-80. So geography is the name of the game when it comes to freight and logistics. We're prepared. The bottom line is the community is ready. We're prepared to welcome as much cargo growth as they can send us. So I talked about that. So the relocation of the cargo carriers does two things. There's a next slide that gives you a kind of a sample, or our photos, maybe, maybe not. But relocating the air cargoes from the terminal has really done two things for the community for the next 50 plus years, right? It's set up our ability to grow the terminal environment unimpeded because we don't have cargo adjacent to us, and we also can grow cargo now unimpeded because we have the land to do it, and they now have moved and are unimpeded by commercial service. So soon, the old cargo building that's adjacent to the terminal, that building will come down as part of phase 4. The reason we need to take that down is we simply need to get more elbow room or wingtip space on the ramp because we're seeing a continuation of larger airline equipment coming and going from the field. So we simply need more elbow room. So let's make another transition, property development. So property development is another core line of business for CID. We had the first state certified super park, which is essentially over 500 acres of development ready property with access to air, rail, and the interstate. In addition, there are other parcels of land that are available for development. I would encourage you to check that out at our website. We have a cidsuperpark.com. And that just highlights everything about the airport relative to property development, a core line of business. We developed that website really to help our partners at ICAD, IEDA, EA, to sell CID and really do that with one voice and one message. So that, in our opinion, the commission is not in direct competition with private developers, but rather we offer an alternative for certain business development needs, i.e. we're not necessarily selling land, we're leasing land, very different product, but we also have that availability to do leasing should that be desired for a project. We work in tandem on various proposals with Alliant Energy and their Big Cedar, so we appreciate that partnership with Alliant. Our partners also with the EA and ICAD and IDA, we routinely communicate on project opportunities. So in summary, the CID team really focuses on 4 core lines of business: air service, air cargo, property development, and then general aviation or business aviation. If it doesn't fit in one of those areas, or we can't make it fit, we just simply move on. So I hope you really begin to get appreciation for the airport as something more than just air service. Rather, CID is a vital economic engine that serves as a strategic gateway for all of eastern Iowa and the border regions of Illinois and Wisconsin. We believe it is important for CID to tackle one of the regions and the state's biggest challenges, and that's workforce retention and recruitment and creating good paying jobs. So we're going to turn your attention to a video to tee up a little bit about our workforce development and what we intend to do here at CID to put us on the map as an aviation service center. So cue the video. I think we started the conversation probably in 2017, beginning to have a conversation about it. When Dr. Sundberg relocated to the community in 2018, I would say I gave her about a week to get acclimated and moved into the house, and I started calling, and some of our commissioners were engaged as well and set up some initial meetings to talk about an opportunity to stand up an aviation maintenance program.
The need for this program is substantial. Initially, when we actually began the process of looking at need, it didn't appear like there was a large need in eastern Iowa, but the more we met with employers and the more we looked into the data, we found that the need is substantial, and it's anticipated to be very much needed for the next 10 years out.
It's very important to start the program for the industry as a whole. There's workforce shortages, not unlike many industries. In aviation, we see workforce shortages, both in the pilots as well as mechanics. It seemed like a natural fit for us in eastern Iowa to pursue the maintenance side with Collins doing avionics, needing a technician workforce. The University of Iowa has been active in the aviation space, and it just seemed like aviation maintenance was a unique opportunity for us, and just felt like stars align, and we've been going for it ever since.
To develop an aviation program, it's appealing on a couple of different levels. First of all, it's meeting the needs of our community, which is something that every community college, that's our mission. The second part is it provides really, really good jobs for residents here who want to get into aviation mechanic programs. So it is a win-win for us in terms of we're serving our community, but we're also serving the residents. These are really good paying jobs, and they're highly demanded today.
So the location of the school is adjacent here to our airport administration building. It's the old Alliant Energy hangar that we purchased from Alliant Energy here a few years ago and have really set it aside with the goal of trying to grow the Kirkwood maintenance program in this hangar. We're fortunate that we have the facility available to begin to put the students in and really start that transformation of aviation industrial service centers, what we're looking to do.
Things are coming along really well. So we anticipate the launch of this to be fall of 2023. And the reason for that is there's a lot to do in the interim. It has to have FAA approval, which is not anything we've ever done before. We've never gone through that process. And so that's always a challenge, but we believe that we'll be well positioned to get through it. But it just takes time. And the hangar here is available, and so that's ready to go. We do have a faculty member and a director hired.
The Kirkwood Aviation Maintenance Program will be a game changer for our business because being able to find local mechanics has always been a hindrance to further growth. So we're excited to be able to have a local resource to be able to add mechanics and take on new business.
We really look at it as kind of the two domino effect. One was workforce, and we've got Kirkwood working on that. We're excited here fall of 23. Hopefully we'll have our first class. The sales tax was the other domino. So a lot of our small aviation employers that have been struggling. When you're bidding work, you're at a competitive disadvantage with our tax environment. So that sales tax, which is now passed the Senate and passed the House, and now we expect the governor will be signing here soon.
So the sales tax exemption on aircraft parts and labor is a really, really big deal. It's been a disadvantage to aviation businesses in Iowa forever, essentially. As you look around other states that didn't have this this tax, we've been able to, we had to cut pricing or modify to try to be able to keep the business here. Now with this sales tax cut, essentially, we'll be able to be competitive, we'll be able to increase our wages, which is, the competition is on both sides. It's on bringing business in, but it's also on being able to build up your internal supply. So it's going to be really important for us to be able to have that sales tax exemption.
This will benefit the corridor and the state of Iowa in lots of ways. All of us want to have really thriving and growing airports, and it will help Eastern Iowa Airport in particular, but it will also help the entire state. We need mechanics across the state, across the nation, and so I'm really excited about this program. I feel really honored to be able to be a part of it, and I know it's the right thing for this region.
When students graduate from the program, they'll have an airframe and a power plant license, and it stays with them forever. It's a lifetime deal. So by having that, it's kind of a gateway into all sorts of different specialties that they can do.
What excites me most about the program, I really love the opportunity to see young people get the interest of aviation and kind of that aviation bug at a young age.
What excites me the most about this project is the opportunities for our students. These are really, really good jobs, and I just feel really excited for our students. So I think this is really something that our community should be very proud of.
Thank you, and certainly a huge shout out to Kirkwood. Lots of different aviation employers across the state that have been bugging for about 5 years now on the sales tax exemption that we finally got done. So we're very excited. There's a track 7, we call it, it's the vision growth. So this is what we hoped and intend to do with these two parcels. We've got a workforce that's being created by Kirkwood. We got the right sales tax environment. This property that's shown, just to give you a lay of the land on the, the right side of the screen, if you will, is Arthur Collins. The north side is Wright Brothers. That darker gray pavement That pavement will go in and be in place next fall is our intention. That will open up 40 acres of development-ready property for an aviation industrial park that will be supported by the workforce that we create right here in our backyard. So we'll get busy here soon on promoting that and promoting the opportunities within that property. No small challenge, but you got to create it. You got to create the vision boards, and then you got to go get it. So that's the next step for us on the airport team. But with Kirkwood, I think we got the right partners in place to pull this together, and we're very excited for the future. So with that, I'm going to now transition to our speakers. As I do that, and they're going to come up on the stage, I'm going to introduce both. I'd also point out we do have comment cards or cards on the table for questions here at the end. If you have a question, just write it down and hold it up, and we'll gather those and then read them aloud and have some Q&A here in a little bit. But first, I will introduce Mike Boyd, who's the president of the Boyd Group International. He was our speaker in 2018 event, and people enjoyed his provocative presentation so much, we decided to bring him back. So Mike knows this. I'm going to just apologize up front. It's designed to be provocative. It's designed to make you think, have a little fun, but he's definitely going to hopefully rattle some traditional thinking. He's well-known futurist in aviation issues and often called upon by the national media to provide input regarding aviation events. Our other speaker, Bill Swellbar, Chief Industry Strategist for Swellbar Zong Consultancy. He's also a researcher with MIT, a research engineer at MIT, and he's a current board member for Hawaiian Airlines. So if you're thinking about Hawaii and making a trip there, hit this guy up for some good airfare after the meeting. But with that, I'll bring them up and they'll take it from here.
You're on.
I'm on. Thank you very much. I'll try not to be too provocative. This ain't Playboy. What we wanted to talk about today, here you go, is basically the fact that the industry has changed dramatically. What you heard just now about what's going on here at CID, Marty's right on the line. Airlines are changing, so you have to change your facilities. Cargo and logistics are changing, you got to change your facilities. So with that, what I thought we'd do is, Bill has put out some really good information on what's happening in the industry, and it has changed. Air transportation as a communications channel has changed incredibly so. So we'll talk about that in a second. And let's put this on the table. Bill has done a lot of work regarding small community air service, which is fast becoming an oxymoron, only because small communities cannot support the air service that places like CID can. It can support a whole lot of other economic development, but air service is not one of them. Could somebody shut off this thing here? Thank you. So anyway, I'm going to leave it with that. Bill, you're up.
Thanks, Mike.
The big green button.
The big green, great. Hey, everybody, thank you so much, Marty and staff and the commission for inviting us to come today. I have been a student of small community air service for 40 years of my career, and it doesn't make me very happy to stand up here and present the message that's a reality for many airports around the country that are not CID. But there are airports in your state and in your region that will struggle going forward. It is the nature of the beast. It is where the industry is today. So over the last 6 weeks, Mike and I have put out 2 thought papers. I'm not going to say everybody loved the message. They didn't. We were not compensated for the work. But I think what's important as we think about the small airports around the country, just because we're talking about it and thinking about it and analyzing it doesn't mean we're advocating for closing small airports. It's just where the industry is headed. And you guys are incredibly blessed with an airport director, Marty Lenz, who has recognized that the train has been coming for the last decade, and he has positioned CID very nicely to be able to take advantage of a marketplace that is sure to change. Everybody wants to say that it's about a pilot shortage. Yep, some of it's about a pilot shortage. It's not all about a pilot shortage. You know, Congress, everybody says, well, if we just change the training rules and it would be less than 1,500 hours to train a pilot to sit in the right seat of a commercial airliner, that'll work. No. The economics of the small airplane, 50 seats and less, just simply cannot be sustained. Whether it be through increased labor rates, whether it be through increased maintenance required, whether it be through increased airport costs around the country, because those are fixed costs for many, and it's very hard to amortize all these costs over very few seats. Also, a bigger airplane has more opportunity to generate revenue. So we can either do something about it and think about how it is that we might repurpose an airport that is certain to lose service over the coming years. Or we can just, as Marty said, let the market speak its harsh message and airlines will leave. There's a whole lot of stuff on here, and I'm not going to read all of it for sure. But what it is that I think is really interesting is the highway is the first mode of access to the air transportation grid for many today. And I'm not going to ask everybody to raise your hands out there if you've driven to another airport to take advantage of service that they might have. But people drive every day. As Marty talked about, leakage, you know. What it is you want to be able to do is take advantage of reverse leakage when they're coming to you, right? But what it is that's really interesting is people like to think that, no, people don't want to drive. You know what's, in 1990, Southwest Airlines was studied by the Department of Transportation, and their mojo at the time was to serve very few airports, charge very low fares, and hopefully people would take to the highway to drive and take advantage of those low fares. And lo and behold, the Department of Transportation called it the Southwest effect. All we're talking about today is the same thing. It's just at the regional level. And airports need to be positioned, and you guys are positioned to take advantage of the things that Marty spoke to. Going forward, small community air service and essential air service, and in Iowa, you have Des Moines and Cedar Rapids, and 6 essential air service airports. Not too long ago, SkyWest announced it wanted to leave 29 essential air service airports around the country. Those are numbers that have not been spoken in Washington very often, and they certainly got a lot of attention. But the fact of the matter is we have 2 pieces of legislation that are providing unintended consequences. The Airline Deregulation Act of 1978. Now, why would I go back that far? Well, that's when the Essential Air Service Program was created. It was created by Congressman Jim Oberstar in order to get the act passed by that all but guaranteed small communities served at the time would be served in perpetuity. Can't happen. And then we had the 1,500-hour rule in 2013. So now, the airlines have a conundrum with the small 50-seat jet that are needed in these small markets. Do I fly the service that I contracted with the government under the Essential Air Service Program, or do I serve other non-subsidized communities, small communities, that I fly on behalf of United, American, Delta, and Alaska? I have a choice. I can't do both. I don't have enough workforce to do both. And so something has to give. And so the small community system is going to get smaller, and yes, it's the perfect definition of a zero-sum game. We're not going to spend a lot of time with this. All I'm showing is on the left, the black bar. In 2015, the small regional jet was marginally profitable. Then we began the process of increasing the wages of regional pilots. Then the maintenance costs began to go up significantly, the airport costs, and all of a sudden, this airplane is not sustainable financially. And then you just kind of throw in the fact that we've gone from $60 a barrel oil to $105. It really doesn't work. And so this is going to happen, and we're standing here not because we think it's going to happen, it's happening right now. And so, you know, the thing that I find really interesting when we talk about the Essential Air Service Program, and I know for many it's a bad word, but what was essential in 1978 is not essential in 2022. I mean, the most interesting thing for me is when the Essential Air Service Program was put into the Airline Deregulation Act in 1978, the interstate was 15 years from completion, right? Just kind of think about that, right? I mean, this is just common sense stuff. So anyway, it is time to talk about things regionally. That's where things are going. Airplanes are getting bigger, as Marty said, and what it is you need to continue to build on is the fact that you have positioned Cedar Rapids as an important gathering point for air traffic in this region and beyond what might be the immediate region. So none of this is new, you know. This is just, there's not a one size fits all. It's just continue to do what you're doing because you're doing it right. And there are going to be those that wanted to ignore or didn't want to hear or certainly didn't want to listen. Well, they're the ones that are not positioned to take advantage of things in 2022 and beyond. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike.
Thank you. In a lot of communities, you'd have to walk out the back door, you know, sneak out. But I think this is a real issue that we have to realize, that an airport is more than just having scheduled service. Are we getting feedback here? I love feedback, but not that kind. In any event, what I wanted to talk about here is very simply, the structure of the industry has changed. As a communications channel, air transportation has changed. I didn't put it in here, but you know, back in 1978, 1985 even, you had like 24 independent regional airlines serving independent regional routes. They're all gone. Why are they gone? They can't make any money. Why are they gone? The consumer doesn't need them anymore. You have a situation where they'll travel based upon how they can get from A to B. Yes, you can fly out of a smaller airport an hour away out of here. They have 2 flights a day. Or you can spend the time and drive down here an hour and you've got umpty flights a day, and you can come back if something cancels. That's the name of the game with consumers right now, and that's what's happening all around the country. But that airport that has only 1 flight a day and might not have any still has huge economic value with what's going on in the United States. Every airport in America is an economic generator, and that doesn't mean, I hear this all the time, if we lose our service, we'll die. Not one airport who has lost air service in America has died, not a single one. Others have grown, and some of the most aggressive airports we have in America, like Oakland County Airport in Michigan, doesn't have a single scheduled flight. You know, we have that happening. Take a look what's happened in Austin, Texas. I used to be a station director in San Antonio. Austin was that little airport up the highway. It's now 5 times bigger than is San Antonio. Why? Because of economic development. Economic development is the name of the game, and that's happening all around. And these new dynamics in communication and logistics. How many people in this room has ordered something from Amazon in the last month? I knew. Some people are admitting this, yes. But nevertheless, that's a whole different world out there with logistics, and that means air transportation. All this cargo development here, cargo's boring. It used to be boring because it was stuff that nobody really messed with. Today, instead of carrying flowers and carrying huge pieces of equipment for that construction project, they're carrying your coffee maker you ordered 2 days ago. That's happening all around America, and small airports can be the beneficiary of that as well. This is another indication here. If you take a look, you know, I used to work in Albany as a station director, and back in 2000, that was the number of people going to places out of Albany, to and from. Buffalo, Boston, LaGuardia, JFK. That was 110,000 people, and it's all gone. And that's not because the people are lined up at a gate waiting for an airplane to come up. They don't need to go anymore. I mean, when I was a punk analyst, and Mayor, I did my time in New York too. I know. Trust me, she speaks with truth here. But nevertheless, I used to have to travel from New York to Washington and bring papers down for negotiations. You'd never do that today. You don't have to have meetings anymore one-on-one. It can be just as effective, and that's happening. But places like this who lost that traffic, that's because people don't want to go. They don't have to go anymore. Air transportation has changed. So where is the bottom line of the future? It's logistics. It's moving things rapidly A to B. And air cargo is probably the wrong word for it, because air cargo, everybody thinks it's just big, heavy stuff, boxes put on an airplane. It's not anymore. I mean, I believe that in the next 5 years, you'll find small airplanes like, ATR-42s, which are 70-seat passengers, turned into cargo. They're going to go to small airports. They're going to be the distribution center in Gallup, New Mexico. They're going to be the distribution center in Worland, Wyoming. And they'll stay for 2 hours, distribute stuff, and go. We have a really exciting future, and small airports are really part of it. Let's keep in mind, the United States of America, hear this, you haven't built a new airport in 25 years. Why should we? Do we need it? The fact is, we built those airports 70 years ago. We're ahead of the game. I don't care if you've got a water slide on the top of Singapore's airport. I'm not particularly interested in that when I take a trip. But people will say that. We have the best airport system in America, and small airports are a key part of it. Now, one of the other things happening is that the physical movement of humans isn't always necessary to do business. We've seen that. I hate to admit it, but I'm in this racket. This is the second business trip I have had to make in 2 years. And I've had a lot of meetings all around the world. Did a lot of work in Saudi Arabia. Don't get involved in that stuff. But nevertheless, never had to go there, thank God. But you have these other kinds of modalities back and forth. So it gets to the point is human labor isn't necessarily necessary to get things done. So the future of communications is going to change. And here's something else that's happening. And this is important to what's going on in this state. Incredibly important. We have business migration going on. Do you know in California today, if a shoplifter doesn't take more than $900, they don't prosecute? I really want to live in a place like that. It's just outstanding, In California, they're saying that they want to pass a law that people will only have to work 32 hours for 40 hours of pay. How many businesses in this room want to rush off to Fresno right now? I don't think so. They want to get the hell out of Dodge. They want to, not Dodge, wrong place, but they want to get the hell out of there, and they want to come to places like this. For example, I apologize for these numbers, but we do a lot of forecasting. We do the best aviation forecasting probably in the business. We've done it for 30 years. This is our forecast for 2025. I won't go over it, but on that top 15 list, there's only 2 airports on the East Coast. One is Nantucket, which is so small an extra airplane comes in, it doubles the traffic. The other one is at the very bottom, Bangor, Maine, which has some very unique situations in terms of growth, including cargo. Other than that, every growth airport is in the Midwest, the Deep South, or the Rocky Mountain region. That's where business is moving to. And when business moves, you need an air transportation system and you need an airport system. America has it. What's going on in this airport is really the poster child of what the rest of the industry should be looking at. And there's too many small airports that are being hornswoggled to do another study, to do another analysis, to attract an airline. It's just amazing to me. You're more like, I've had a couple places call and I said, I can't get you air service. I can maybe get you a moon launch first, because they're just not coming. So, take a look at what's going on. Take a look at the West Coast. The stuff that's gone on there, the changes that are going on over there are not business friendly. This place is. And I can see what Mayor Alter said, when you get off of an airplane here or get off of an airplane in New York and you say, I want to live someplace, Queens is not really in the play anymore. You have that. But the business migration is coming to places like this and places that prepare. There's a lot of money being spent at this airport, and it was easy for Marty. He didn't have to worry about it. It was just really simple stuff. Just get $60 million and just do it, But it's really hard to do, but if you don't have it, you're not going to attract it. And that's where the future is. And it's not just this airport. It is other airports in this state and other states that are going after it. That's the real future. And the real future is being prepared for these new logistics. People don't want to live in California. Businesses don't want to go to California. Businesses, even Colorado, they've raised taxes so high, people want to get out. They're going to go places where they can make money and have a good quality of life. Iowa apparently fits that bill and is continuing to fit that bill. So I thought I'd throw those things out, but remember, the industry is changing. Air transportation as a communications channel is changing. That means airports have to change, and we have to change our attitude toward airports. So I will leave the rant at that, if I may. So if any questions, I don't know if we have time or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can either, you got plenty of time. time for questions, but, so for those that maybe not familiar with Mike and Bill, if you go to rumble.com, you can look up the Swell Bar, or Boyd Swell Bar Unvarnished, and they talk, I think, is it weekly? No, yeah, weekly you put out?
Every other week.
If we ever get ourselves organized, yes.
So every other week, there's various short snippets out there you can watch if you're interested to kind of hear that unvarnished approach to what's happening on air service. So, but got plenty of time for questions, I think. So if you have questions, just a reminder, there's cards on the table. Feel free to write it out, and one of a staff member will grab it and run it up here, and we'll get on. But to kick things off, I know we talked in and out about CID and the national landscape with air service, and I wonder if you might drill into that a little bit more. What does it look like for small markets that are in our immediate vicinity? Do they have air service? Do they not have air service? I mean, we kind of flirted with it. I think we know the answer, but let's just come out with it.
Commercial, I hear this all the time. Airports say, oh, we want commercial service. Like we want running water and a sewer system that flushes. It's not the same thing. If you have 2 flights a day in Dubuque, let's just say, and you've got, how many flights of departure a day do you have here?
I'm sorry?
How many departures a day do you have here now?
We vary between, 24 to 31 daily.
All right, 24 to 31, which is more convenient. It's coming to 24 to 31. So a lot of communities that have scheduled service don't really have it because consumers won't use it. I mean, I use an example like south of Colorado Springs, Pueblo. They have 2 flights a day with SkyWest, and it does not get any better than SkyWest. And they can't fill 25% of the seats because Colorado Springs has 50 flights a day. So they don't have air.
Yeah, I guess where it is that I come at is, over the years, we've gone through 3 distinct phases of consolidation among the airlines. One thing we have not done is thought about consolidating the infrastructure. And that's kind of where we are today. And consolidation creates good things. It removes redundancies from the system. And redundancies right now in a shortage situation is a bad deal. We don't need service to Chicago from 3 airports less than 100 miles apart. What we want is 5 flights a day from 1 easily drivable airport to Chicago on an airplane that has 2 classes of air service. And that's what it is. We need to think about product, and we need to think about scale. And consolidation is not a bad word. We've just never really talked about it from an infrastructure point of view.
I don't think we've ever accepted it because it's going to happen naturally anyway.
Yeah.
We've seen this in Michigan, done a lot of work in Michigan. Lower Peninsula of Michigan is over-airported. And it's starting to, United just pulled out of Kalamazoo and Lansing. Why'd they do that? People are driving to Grand Rapids.
Or Detroit.
Yeah. So that's happening. The question is, after the airline leaves, I don't like you. After the airline leaves, that doesn't mean the airport dies. There's great opportunities out there for investment. Marty's chasing after it. Other airports can chase after it just as well because airports are great places to invest in if you have the right kind of business.
So a couple questions. A couple are for me. I'll get to in a second. But I guess one question before I get to these: can the airlines operate the same flight schedule today that they operated in 2019?
No. And, it's just networks are going to change. Right now, we do not have enough skilled labor to fly the same number of departures that were flown in 2019. The regional airlines become the ground where it is that the larger airlines go to raid pilots, so the larger airplanes are being flown, but that's what makes the most economic sense. And so, no, I don't think it is the same. I think it's very different. I'm sure I know where Mike's going to go with this is, the ultra low-cost guys don't have connectivity for sale. But a community like Cedar Rapids needs both. You need to have that Allegiant, but you also, because you are a business center, need to have access to the nation through hubs and spokes and the globe through international gateways.
Let me be a little Cassandra here for a second. This year, airlines are up to about 90% of the seats, the capacity they had in 2019 before we got this wonderful gift from our friends in Wuhan. And as a result of that, that seemed to be the normal, because business travel has dropped off. We think it's going to drop off even more significantly in the fourth quarter, simply because of inflation and other things, and I hope I'm dead wrong. But that's going to sort of moderate some of this lack of air service, because people won't be flying as much, probably in the fourth quarter, but we'll see what happens.
Question here is from what's been presented, COVID has had an extreme impact on business in commercial flights. Would you say the pandemic has accelerated your forecasts, and can you speak a little bit to that?
Okay. Yeah, the pandemic has been bad for business traffic as we knew it, right? I mean, we know that it hasn't bounced back anywhere near. We need people to return to the office. That's probably going to be the first cue as to when it is we might start to see traditional business traffic come back. But the most important metric for me during the pandemic that I followed was new business applications every month. And every month during the pandemic, there were more than 1 million new business applications every month. Now, not all of those businesses are going to make it. But it tells you the appetite out there, the entrepreneurial spirit of people who want to do it for themselves. So there are going to be businesses that make it, but they're going to work on a very different business travel budget than Morgan Stanley and McKinsey and Company. And so I believe the volume will get back close. I don't believe the revenue will get back to where it was when the big banks and the big consulting companies paid disproportionate fares to sit up in first and business class.
Agreed. I think one of the other things is how the pandemic has changed a lot of the ways we do business. I do a lot of interaction with the media, and it used to be they'd call and they send a black car, take me down to some satellite place, spend I don't know how much money with some satellite uplink for a 5-minute interview, if that. Today it's all by Skype. They wouldn't use Skype before because it looks like a hostage video, but now they're used to that. And so we have these satellite uplink places gone. We have a lot of people who used to have car services decimated. And now they accept the fact that how many you've seen these interviews with somebody that's on Skype or Zoom or something, and in the back the guy's laundry is there, and it's little dishes undone, and they accept that now. So we have had sort of a diminution in the quality of our coverage.
Hey Marty, I need to step back a minute. Is this the Kirkwood table here?
Yeah.
Okay, we stayed at your hotel last night.
Well,
I'm moving in. And it was absolutely terrific until the last bite of my egg sandwich was done this morning. That's a damn good egg sandwich. But anyway, I just had to say, wow, what a cool facility.
It's Vegas quality. No, it's Steve Wynn quality.
It's better.
Good point.
Yeah, thank you for that. Another question is, how do international airline industry trends impact regional airports, or do they not?
They do.
Let's be honest. The international piece is such a question mark. We don't know a doggone thing about when the China market's coming back online. One of the examples I use every day is why it is that the business revenue aspect. Every day between San Francisco and Beijing, Apple Computer put 48 people in first and business class from San Francisco to Beijing. That ain't happening. And so Asia's a big piece. And if we think about 60% of the international traffic in 2019 is comprised in Europe, Asia, and Canada. And those have been the three regions that have been the slowest to come back. Now, everybody's kind of bullish on Europe right now. I hope it happens. We'll see. But Asia, I think, is really the question mark. And friends in Canada who are in the business, it's more the Canadians that don't want to fly. They'll put an airplane in the U.S. and we'll get on. They just can't fill it on the other side of the border, is what it is, I understand right now.
Let me touch on the China thing. Our company has done a lot of work with China. I went to high school in Taiwan, and at one point we had like 8 Chinese ambassadors working for us at Las Vegas Airport. So we know a little bit about it. There were something close, back and forth, to something like 8 million people going back and forth between the U.S. and China. This year there might be a couple 100,000. And one of the reasons it's over there is it's not a nice place. We've done conferences over there. These are bad people running the place. I'll be honest. I don't care if that's a little provocative. I don't have to go back there. I'm not using my visa. But nevertheless, that's not coming back anytime soon. And that was huge. 31% of all U.S. enplanements across the board used to be directly or indirectly driven by international. It's going to be down to less than 20% now for all the reasons Bill said. So I don't think that's coming back. And I guarantee you, China ain't coming back anytime in the near future.
Hey, Marty, before we go, because the person asked a very specific question, how does international affect regional airports? And I absolutely disregarded the question and answered it the way I wanted to. But it's a great question because it's not just international airports impacting regional airports. It's also the California corridor that still isn't fully open, the Northeast United States that's still not fully open. So we really haven't fully developed the hub and spoke system the way we knew it. And so if I have fewer nodes to connect to, the regional business can't perform at the same level. It needs nodes to connect to. And that's just not where we are. So it's international, it's long haul domestic. It's a lot of things that are going into this formula that is not in the small community regional airports' favor.
Next is what future technologies might disrupt the long-term plans or plans for airports, and it's specific to CID, and I'll come back to that, but I'm curious, I'm going to take the softball approach and throw it to you before I answer.
Of course you would. I'm
I'll
letting
just say
Mike have
ditto.
this one. I'm getting out of here.
Hit me again with that so I can
So
get a
what kind of
properly biased
future,
answer.
what kind of future technologies do you see coming down the pipe that might disrupt small airports or airport plans, long-term planning?
Well, I think it's already happened. I mean,
Yeah.
the business travel, the Zoom thing, I think we've already seen that. I don't think there's anything else coming down. Now, you've totally redone your airport. How many airports are out there with pre-9/11 security? You don't have any of that. So I don't see anything happening, which means it probably will, but I just don't see it right now.
So I guess go ahead.
Yeah, there's so much interesting innovation that's going on in aviation today, right? I don't think Mike and I sit up here as the two most bullish people to talk to about batteries. I mean, we need some range here. I mean, I might be able to get you from one side of Houston to the other, but it's going to be a while before we have that airplane that can fly, a couple hundred miles. For somebody who sits on Hawaiian Airlines board of directors, there's probably no better place for an electric airplane for a state who cares so much about the ecology and the like. But even though our stage lengths are 200 miles, we can't really even begin to consider that. I do think that some of the smaller airports that may be disenfranchised from commercial service could benefit from the cargo piece that Mike was talking about with the ATRs. And let's be honest, unmanned stuff's going to get tried soon. And everything, the laboratory is the cargo business. I ain't going to see one pilot up front, while I'm still here. because if anybody thinks that's going to be the case, I'll bring you to Washington and we can talk to the Airline Pilots Association. It'll be a very positive conversation.
And you'll pay the bill for the drink. One other thing I might say about batteries. I see some real danger with batteries because of the supply of batteries, where we're getting batteries from. Do a little research to see where cobalt comes from. You know, horrible mines. I mean, we're talking about child labor. We're talking about much the same with lithium. Guess who controls most of the lithium and the cobalt? China. Guess where most cells are made? China. We may not have the ability to replace the batteries on that airplane. I'm just saying we've got to work that out, and we've got to work out recycling. And it can be done, but I think we're running headlong into... Who grew up in the 1950s here? I'll admit I did. Remember nuclear power was going to be the thing? We don't have to worry about it. It's going to be free. Everything will be great. And I don't know where we're going to put those nuclear rods when they're done. So, you know, now we have 3 Mile Island, but I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, and yeah. I have that string. I keep trying to pull the microphone off him, but it's not working. He keeps grabbing it back.
You knew what to expect when you said, come on over.
But technology, when I think of technology, I do think more of the drone issue. I think the integration's going to pick up its pace. I think the challenge to that integration is just going to be the federal process. So that'll slow down. I'll probably be retired by the time it fully integrates, but I think that's something out there. I also think, quite honestly, when you think about your travel experience, this is it, right? I mean, everything you do, and so I see ticket counters changing more than they have already, because you check in, you can pretty much do everything through your phone, even pay your bill at the restaurants, the gift shops. Gift shops now, and SSB is here, they certainly can speak to how they're changing, where you can grab gift items and never engage with a cashier and exit the store, and the store technology knows what you grabbed, and as you leave, takes your money out from your phone and your Apple Wallet. So more of that sort of touchless technology I see coming. I don't see too many disruptors per se than what's already happening
Quite the
for us,
opposite.
you know?
Yeah, quite the
I mean, I think, so that, I guess that's what I would kind of say for now. I think some things that I would like to try to get to here, we're running short, a little short on time.
Marty, can I ask
Yeah.
you a question?
No,
Okay.
no, go for it.
Okay.
Go for it.
So I think about all of the technology that is finding its way into the airport space. And we think about workforce in terms of pilots and mechanics and others. And I wonder how it is that airports with different governance structures, some might be cities, some might be authorities, how do you compete for technology talent when these companies out there have stock options and all kinds of equity stuff to play with? And it scares the hell out of me, quite honestly. I mean, because I will say, at Hawaiian, that's the biggest thing we deal with is technology and finding it and retaining it.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think like most can probably relate in this room right now about workforce challenges in general. For us in that competition, quite honestly, we're about to enter that space and begin recruitment for a second IT manager. We have our IT technician, we have an IT manager, Jared, who's fantastic, but it's a one-person show. So he's busy, no doubt about it. For us, it's, you know, fantastic benefit package, flexibility in work schedules, things like that, you know, but it's tough. You know, I think we're beginning to talk internally, and we've got actually, it's no secret, there's an RFQ on the street to really take a look at our organization and come up with some creative ways for airports to attract talent. We're blessed in that, being a commission, we really operate functionally as any private business. So we have a lot of tools in our toolbox that maybe city or county doesn't have. So although we're closely aligned with the city of Cedar Rapids, we have a different personnel manual, we can do things with a commission vote without, you know, going through a city process. So we're gonna be facing that headlong. I mean, we're So more
Another
to come
great
on
thing
that.
for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's those kind of partnerships with Kirkwood, quite honestly,
Yeah.
that help cover that skills gap.
Yeah.
So some of the next questions, one here, I'm going to speak to this quickly. Is there a plan to add indoor structured parking in the future here at the airport? Honestly, I guess you could say there's a plan. It's like on year 30 of the planning cycle. I say that because every time we've surveyed that question, and we've done it frequently, people want it. What they don't want is the price tag that comes along with, what it costs to park there. So if you think about a structured parking, you're in the neighborhood and to $35,000, $40,000 a stall for development. So you just add up 200 stalls, you get to the number real quick, right? So parking fees would be in the neighborhood of $30 a day. And most Iowans I've talked to, and y'all are tight. I mean, I'm new. I've been here 7 years, but I'm telling you, Iowans are tight. And I am one now, so hey, I say that with pride, but they're just not going to pay $30, $35 a day in parking. So when we've asked it, people don't want that. So we're blessed with the space, and we can run shuttle-type service to the terminal and provide a better quality product door to door from the door of the terminal and shuttle you to the door of your car for a considerable length of time before we would actually cover the cost of what parking structures. So that may be a little bit more windy of an answer to the structured parking, but we get that a lot. So probably not anytime soon, and we just physically start running out of space, which, right now we don't have that problem. So next, can you speak to general aviation and how it may grow or contract with is it startups and commercials and changes, with the changes in commercial service previously discussed. So maybe talk about, what's happening in private aviation.
Go ahead.
The executive side's booming. We know that. I mean, that stuff.
Yeah.
That's going through the roof. The problem is it's the lower end, entry level. Entry level GA or entry level recreational flying is very, very, very expensive now. What was it, Cessna 172, when they're rebuilding, what does that cost? Probably what? $100,000 or something for a good used one, something like that?
More than that now.
Yeah, more than that, yeah. And of course, Cessna tried to build something called the Skycatcher, and after about 50 of them were sold, they kept falling out of the sky. We don't have that. So general aviation at the recreational end, I think, is going to atrophy. But at the high end, the G5s, G6s, that kind of thing, that's going to continue to boom. But boom means another 150 airplanes over the next 2 years or something like that. But it is going to be something, I think, pretty significant. But for airports that are depending upon things like flight schools and all that sort of thing, that's going to be an issue, especially with airlines doing it themselves now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And it would be a good time to kind of mention that Mike and I are both fun. We're kind of down on the small jet. You guys got that all figured out already. But JSX is a company that is operating the Embraer 135, 145 platform with 30 seats. It's a nice product. And what it is that they're saying is, I'm going to find these holes in the system that are served by the ultra low-cost carriers that don't have first class for sale, and I'm going to appeal to a customer base that they can't. And this is going to be something I think is important to watch. And this is another one where the question early on about the business revenue, it's the innovation stuff like this that is going to take people out of the first class cabins of the network carriers. And so, there's going to be keen competition for that passenger. And we know that the Gen Ys and Zs are happy to pay for a better product. And this is, to me, something that we really haven't talked enough about in the business. The customer's going to be really different tomorrow. This customer's built around a dude like me, a baby boomer, right? I'm going away soon. But what it is that's coming are these people these kids that have spend a lot on travel, are not afraid to buy up, And we're going to need to be thinking about a system that envelops a very different customer than I think the system that we've come accustomed to.
Well, I want to be respectful on everybody's time. We're coming up to 1 o'clock. I know folks have to get back to the office, and a couple more questions I didn't get to. I apologize about that, but one more round of applause for Bill and Mike, if you will.
Marty, it's an honor for us to be here. We really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
no,
you,
I-
Marty. Thank you, CID.
Yeah, I
very
appreciate
much.
you both coming in, and
Thanks for a great sleep.
Yeah, we're not over your hotel yet.
I'm grooving on it.
yeah, it's true. I mean, they came in this morning and they were talking rave reviews of Kirkwood's Hotel. So, so great to be able to welcome guests to the community and really put on, the right message for them. So I appreciate all of that. And thank you again for attending. There's a few, for those at boards in the back, you might want to walk by. There's some great history slides of the airport that's kind of neat to see, kind of celebrating that 75 years of service from really started with United Airlines and grown to what we are today. So hopefully, you've taken away a little bit about the airport. Hopefully it was informative. Hopefully you understand there's more going on than just commercial air service, and there's certainly challenges in our region, no doubt. And, we're going to have to start to think a lot more regionally and beyond the 7-county region that we often call the corridor. So that's going to take a lot of business help, business leader support to help those conversations kind of get over that fear of potentially losing service. But keeping those communities connected to the transportation system. And I look at it a little bit of, we want those passengers using Iowa's facilities in keeping those revenues flowing through Iowa facilities, because that's important for our overall economy in the region. So again, thank you so much for your time today. Have a great weekend. Take care. Thank you.